Hello to all our viewers. Greetings, greetings, dearly beloved. I'm really, really sorry. Been missing in action for a bit. But today we are back. We are back and we are back with a bang. From wherever you are watching us, thank you so much for your support. We've received support from all over the world and we are so ever grateful for your support. Today I promised and I'm delivering the special one. If you remember our last conversation with my son, I told you that he's a married man. He himself actually said he's a married man. And I'm pleased to introduce my daughter, Nyaradzo, Mrs. Ranganai. You can say a bit more about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be here and I'm excited to talk more with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Really happy to be with you. So, just so that there is a flow, I mean, we were talking about with my daughter earlier on, we're just discussing these issues about mother daughter conversations. Talked about, also had a conversation with my son. And today I've decided to have a conversation with Nyaradzo, my first daughter, the one and only daughter-in-law that I will have, and we will have a conversation around, mother-in-law, daughter-in-law issues today. And as usual, I will read a scripture from the book of Ruth. I'll read verse 16 and 17 of Ruth, and I'm sure you know why I'm going to that scripture. It says, "But Ruth said, entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Where you die, I will die, and there I will be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me." Let me read it also in Shona. I'm sure you know that we do both. It's in Shona Rute chapter 1 ndima 16 handizoziva kuti gumi nenhanhatu. Inotiyo Rute akati, musandirwaririra kuti ndikusiyei ndirege kukuteverai, nokuti pamunoenda neni ndichaendapowo, pamunovata neni ndichavatapowo, navanhu venyu vachave vanhu vangu, naMwari wenyu achava Mwari wangu. Pamunofira ndipo pandichandofira neniwo, ndipo pandichavigwawo. Jehovha ngaandirove arambe achidaro, kana imwi neni tikaparadzaniswa nechinhu asi norufu bedzi. Wow, it's even deeper in Shona, isn't it? Yeah, hanzi murambe muchindirova. Hey, that's a serious commitment to this relationship. But yeah, I know many times it's the go-to scripture and point of discussion when it comes to daughter-in-law, mother-in-law conversations. We have known each other seriously since 2018, 2019? 2019. And then they got married 2020 in the midst of COVID. And so this relationship will be 3 years old in 2 weeks?
Yeah.
In 2 weeks' time, we will be 3 years old in our relationship. So we're fairly new. But still, I'm sure we can have a conversation. What's your take, before I ask you questions, what's your take on this scripture? Do you know it? Does it make sense to you? What does it mean to you?
I know the scripture. It's been one that has fascinated me. I know a lot of people, we read about Ruth and it's usually we focus on the later parts of it and her marrying Boaz. But the relationship actually between her and Naomi has always fascinated me, because I always used to wonder what would make Ruth give up her life, her relatives, everything that she knew, to go with her mother-in-law. So it has always fascinated me in that regard.
Good. Do you feel you left anything so you could have a mother-in-law?
Yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, in the sense that it becomes a very different relationship even with the parents, because I'm no longer, I guess, quote unquote, under my parents' covering, but under my husband's. So even the relationship dynamics are different. But no, in the sense that I'm still connected to that side as well with my parents. They're still my parents. It's
Okay.
just a little bit different in how things are done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So, is it fair, though, in your opinion, to base the mother-in-law, daughter-in-law relationship on such a deep scripture? Is it fair when people do that?
I think yes,
It's fair.
but you need the context.
Okay.
I think context is always important.
Give us the context.
Naomi and Ruth at this point, they've known each other, I think, is it plus or minus 10 years
Yeah.
already?
Yeah.
So we are meeting them 1 decade into their relationship.
True.
So there's life that had been happening. They had built it. It's come
Yeah.
far to get to this point. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, I think what we have implied is that for Ruth to make the decision she made, there was something about her mother-in-law, something about her mother-in-law's God that she saw and was like, okay, no, I need to be near this for the rest of my life. Yeah, so I think it's fair in the sense that if you then follow with the context and go along, but if you just want to base it on the scripture alone, I think it becomes very unfair.
Okay, so very important what you have highlighted, particularly on the fact that we are meeting them when they've already known each other for at least 10 years, and I know we are meeting Mary and Naomi at this juncture, but we lived with each other from day one of you saying I do to my son. And yet this scripture is still given to you. Literally as part of the speeches that come through.
Yes.
How do you find that happening to you day one? You are being told my people, your people, everything. Is that what's your take on that?
For me, I think it might be slightly different with how my mom prepared me for marriage.
Okay.
Because for her, it was you are leaving, you are entering into a new family, and you are entering into a system, a culture that has already been there for the time that it has been there. So, yes, in the sense that you need to go in and start learning and understanding the culture, because we have our culture here, but when you go there, they're going to have a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
So you need to go in there, and yes, your people, but it takes time
Yeah.
for them to become your people, and the relationship takes work.
Yeah.
Just like your marriage relationship, it's going to take work to develop a relationship with your in-laws.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be very personal, but maybe for the purposes of our viewers, my take is from day one. I think it's you who came to introduce yourself to me the first time. I remember I was sitting in church, and you came and you introduced yourself to me, but we had a formal sit down, the two of us alone. I have no recollection of the actual dates, but I remember we sat down for a tea and we had our own conversation. And I'm trying to think here, how long all these things that have been listed here, how long did it take for you to begin to commit? Yes, there is a pre-marriage commitment that I'm going to a new family, for which you were prepared. But after now you have said I do, how long has it taken you, do you think, to mellow to this relationship?
I think I'm still in the process.
Brilliant.
Because, like you said, we are in our third year of this relationship. So it takes some getting used to,
Yeah.
even just learning each other.
Yeah.
Because you are not my mom.
Absolutely.
And you are very different, even the way you guys process things. So
Yeah.
I was used to her, and now I'm getting to learn, oh, okay, this is how she prefers things. And I think the most important thing is managing expectations
Okay.
around the relationship. Because I know if I'd come in expecting you to be my mother,
Yeah.
it would have been disastrous,
Yeah.
because you guys are two very different
Very
people.
different.
So-
Lovely people, but
yeah,
very
but
different.
very different.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest thing, just learning how to manage expectations and just knowing that, okay, I'm going in as a child,
Yeah.
and this is my mother, and then learning, okay, this is different because with my mom I had 27 years,
Yeah.
like, to get to know her, and this new mom, I'm just meeting her now
Yeah.
and starting to get to know her now.
Yeah. 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 On a scale of 1 to 10, where are we now?
I think we're in a good place. I
Okay.
like where we are.
Okay. Which is like what, like 3.5, 4?
No, I like 7.
Oh!
I like where we are.
I like that. I like that. But the truth of the matter is what you've just said, that to acknowledge that, yes, this is my husband's mom, but she's not my mom.
Yeah.
Yes, this is my son's wife, but she's not my daughter. And yet she is my daughter.
Yes.
You know, it's like an oxymoron. But the truth of the matter is, once you look at it from that perspective, you give each other grace, as it were. Time to know each other, to get used to each other, and then to begin to nurture this relationship and to work at it together. Brilliant. Thank you so much. So, what are some of the in-law challenges that you find if someone just dumps this scripture on you?
I think the biggest one, it comes back to expectations. Because, like with this scripture, you might then have a mother in law expecting that you will drop everything in your life
Yeah.
to be there for her all the time, which is not realistic. And especially as you're starting to get to know each other, like in any relationship, you start slow. But if there's that expectation that, no, now I have a daughter-in-law, she must just be here.
Must
when
come
I
and
need
cook
her,
and clean
all
and
of those
sweep.
things. Exactly. That becomes a challenge.
Carry my bags.
And it's also an expectation on the daughter-in-law that you might feel that now you are obligated, that you need to drop everything, including even your own family, your own mother, and be there for your mother-in-law to such an extent, which that can be very draining, trying to maintain that.
Yeah. And the key point of this conversation is what you said in the introduction, Yarazu, that these people had already known each other. At this time that we are meeting Naomi and Ruth, they've known each other for at least around, at least over 5 years.
Yes.
If we are to say, at least for over 5 years, they'd known each other. So certain basic things they'd already sorted between themselves. And that's how the covenant is easier for Ruth to make, as it were. Because even then, Ruth goes ahead and makes this covenant, but the other girl, she just couldn't. Oprah. And I always tell people, there is nothing wrong with the decision that Oprah made at face value. There is nothing, if we're just talking marital relationships, there is nothing wrong with what Oprah did. Yes, if we go a step higher or deeper, I don't know which way people would prefer. When it comes to the choosing of God, she lost it. Oprah lost it, and Ruth got it. But in terms of just the relationship with her mother-in-law, she was given the option to choose, and she chose to go back to her people. And there's nothing wrong at face value with that. Good. So I am still intrigued, though, with the core issues in this scripture. Do you think they are practicable? Can my God be your God? Can my people be your people? Will you die where I die? Will you lodge where I lodge?
I think technically speaking, that is very workable. In the sense that one of the things my mom always used to say was, I think after we had met, you had told me, Gunyai had told me, and Dad had also told me that you and Gunyai are friends.
Yes.
And are very good friends.
But you broke our friendship.
So when I came in, I didn't expect, the friendship to just go. But what my mom said was, okay, so if they're friends, you need to find a way to also become part of that friendship. So I think that's where that comes in, that it's a friendship. You build it,
Yeah.
and you are there for each other when you are needed, and you are available to be there.
Okay.
So I think it's practical. It's practical, but it takes time.
Okay.
It takes a while to get to that space. And
Okay.
I think we've worked at developing our friendship outside of Guinya, just the two of us. Like you mentioned, we meet up sometimes and we just sit down and talk just to get to know each other.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. That's very good. I am Guinya's mom. But once upon a time, I also entered into a family as a daughter-in-law. I found this scripture very challenging, personally, if I am to tell the truth. I found that my mother-in-law was a very sweet person and very personable. And I could relate with her, off the cuff. I knew her. I was like Naomi and Ruth. I knew her way before the marriage because we literally grew up together in the same neighborhood, belonged to the same church, same youth group, and so the family, we were not strangers. But if I am to be honest with the depth of this scripture, it's like you rightly said, it takes time. It's something that is built over time. Yes, it's a covenant, it's a state of covenant that Ruth made, but she made it on the foundation of a 10-year relationship with Naomi. And so when we are making it, we are making it by faith. So you come into this relationship by faith. And so the expectation on both sides is, I will understand you and you will understand me.
Yeah, true.
And when we come in together like that, I think it works better than just it being, a one-way street from one side. I know that when I was younger, I always used to have this conversation with some of my friends but they too were daughters-in-law once upon a time. You can never be just a mother-in-law and not be somebody's daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
How come they are not treating me as they would have wanted to be treated? That's a story for another time. But I just thought I'd throw that in here. Good. What I also find, because people will have questions, sometimes direct questions, to say, what are some of the things that we have done that you would say has strengthened our relationship or has made our relationship to begin to grow, if it is growing, because it might not be growing.
I think being intentional about just spending time together as a family, but also just one-on-one time. And I found that is important because learning each other doesn't happen always in a group setting. And as much as, yes, it's like, especially at the beginning, it's easier to be like, no, let's just go see your parents together and like the four of us. But it's important, and I found that it has been very helpful because I get to know you and understand your personality differently when it's just the two of us. And even as we are talking about life experience, just getting to know each other, then you're like, oh, okay, so maybe she's like this because of this. And it's easier to then be like, oh, okay. So, for example, there will be things that you say that I might have taken offense with, but just because we've gotten to know each other, I realize, oh no, it's not an offensive thing that she's saying. That's just who she is.
That's very important, Nyarazo, to say somebody can say stuff never intended to offend, and yet the other person can actually be easily offended.
Yes.
What I learned from a friend of ours is, just don't take the offense. Leave it there. The offense is there. Leave it there. Don't take it. And also on both parties to know that it is possible actually to offend unintentionally.
Yes.
You know, you never actually are intending to offend, and yet you could offend each other. That's very good. I have found, if somebody was to ask me that question back to me, I have found indeed the times that the two of us are together, I found them to be very helpful in knowing you. And I've also found it work better when we spend longer than, a tea, a lunch, kind of, being together. But when we wake up, sleep together, wake up, sleep, I found that really has helped me to see that, okay, this is her way of life. This is how she behaves. Okay, this is how things are done, in her life. And that has really helped me. So, in other words, what we are saying to our viewers, there are expectations that have to be managed.
Yes.
And do not just expect the covenant to work to its fullest from day one. It's a process. Yes, it's a process. The covenant is actually made by faith.
Yeah.
It's a statement of faith that where you go, I will go. Meaning they were in one place and they were going to have to travel to another place. And in that place, your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. And where you lodge, I will lodge. And whatever else she said. Very, very important to you, our listeners, to know that it's not a one-day automatic relationship. Work at this relationship. Invest time into this relationship, and you will get to know each other better. What else can people invest for the purposes of nurturing this relationship?
Other than time, I think just understanding, giving each other grace. So investing grace.
Okay.
Because, like you said, because of the differences that we had, so even just spending time, like when we come in, we're just like, oh no, we're not going home today, we are going to be here. And just, it's going out of your way. And then that's part of giving the grace, because I know it's important to you. Because you said it, you actually stated that it's important that we also come and spend time. So for me, I'm like, okay, we need to find time to also do that. And then I know and understand that, okay, it's going to be reciprocal. When I also need grace in something, then I'm expecting also to receive grace.
That's good. Like you expect me to come and sleep at your house?
If you can manage the stairs.
That's good. But it's very important what you're saying, Yarazu, to say that people must voice out who they are, what they are expecting out of the relationship, not as a commandment. Just laying your heart bare so that another person will know you. I cherish the times that we spend time together. And I would have lied to myself to say, no, they can just go. I don't know. Me, I want to be with you. I want to know you more. And I want us to be together, including with Kwenyai. Thank you very much. I'm sure there will be many more questions to our viewers. Please comment, subscribe. Please switch on your notification button and comment. Ask further questions. Nyarazu is here. She's going to answer some questions, some more. Thank you so much for coming along. Thank you. Bye.